Recently, I was reading the Week magazine and I came across an interesting column written by Shashi Tharoor. Well, Shashi Tharoor is a very famous and renowned author, member of parliament, and a former Under Secretary General of the UN. And this article talks about how people are starting to read less books and starting to go on to more social media, and this causes them to be manipulated easily because the social media is full of fake news and information. So let's read this article. I plead that you read. Those who read very little are the ones vulnerable to manipulation. Written by Shashi Tharoor. Whenever one stands up to decry the evident decline in reading, the defense comes back. Oh, the younger generation are reading all the time. It's just that they're reading on their mobile phones and not in books. But that's precisely the problem. Many in younger generations seem to believe that books are only for schoolrooms and homework, and that when you're not studying them in order to pass examinations, they have no appeal or value in their lives. It is true that they're reading text messages, WhatsApp forwards, and the like. And in that sense, the reading they do digitally may cover as many words and as much text as my generation read in our analog era. But even if the young are, in that sense, reading more than ever, they're also reading rapidly, carelessly, and superficially. And that's dangerous. The alarm bells have been sounded in a new scholarly article in a journal called First Monday, titled Why Higher Level Reading is Important, which laments the global decline in serious reading and of readers interested in and capable of complex interpretative interaction with texts. The short attention span required and perpetuated by the digital era has led, the scholar authors say, to a significant decline of critical and conscious reading, immersive and slow reading, literary reading, non-strategic or non-goal oriented reading, and long-form reading. Even audiobooks, the authors point out, are not the equivalent of reading, but a poor substitute for it. The scholars identify many psychological processes involved in reading, including motivation and frustration, pleasure and leisure, emotional responses, therapeutic and meditative effects, imaginative and mental imagery, creativity and inspiration. In my own asthmatic childhood, reading was an escape, my education and my entertainment. I read essentially for pleasure, but grew in the process, widened my mental horizons, and enhanced my vocabulary. That sense of reading being an enjoyable activity which you can still benefit from is sadly missing among many of today's young. Ironically, the higher level reading skills that are now out of fashion are all the more essential to negotiate the complexities of the 21st century information society. We live in an era of fake news, conspiracy theories, distortions, and disinformation, simplifications, and outright lies, studiously spread by our rulers to compromise society's capacity for informed democratic decision making. We need all the more to be able to critically interrogate what's around us, and that comes with experience in engaging with the content and language of texts we read. Those who read very little are the ones vulnerable to manipulation by false and motivated WhatsApp forwards. The scholar authors conclude that reading skills and practices are the foundation for full participation in the economic, political, communal, and cultural life of contemporary society, including social, cultural, and political engagement, as much as personal liberation, emancipation, and empowerment. A healthy democratic society that requires the informed consensus of a multi-stakeholder and multicultural society also need resilient readers, they argue. They call for concerted policies to ensure that future reading education will promote reading habits and practices to match the pivotal role of reading. They want policymakers to invest in further reading research. Poetically and rather dramatically, they quote the line, war is what happens when language fails. This scholarly white paper has prompted something called the Legiblanga Reading Manifesto, signed by a variety of writers, publishers, and readers, including myself. The manifesto is a global appeal to promote reading, something I've been doing anyway, by responding to the perennial request to teach audiences a new word by replying with an old word: read. It really does matter. I am the same way the manifesto does, with Margaret Atwood's much quoted warning: if there are no young readers and writers, there will shortly be no older ones. Literacy will be dead, and democracy will be dead as well. If you want to save democracy, encourage the next generation to read.